Logical. Wait, what?
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been quite a while since my last update. I've been pretty lazy, to be honest. I have been lazy at editing the video footage that I do have, and so I am looking forward to getting a couple of episodes out in quick succession. But there has been reasons. It's been raining a lot, pretty rare for my part of the world, but it's been raining for a good 3 weeks, pretty much non-stop, making it really hard to get the kayak outside and do any sanding or anything. The rain comes and goes, and every 20 minutes, half an hour, it could start raining again. And it's also moved into winter. You can probably see I'm rugged up here. We don't really like the cold too much here in Australia. We're more used to the heat, so at least I am. So that makes it a little bit difficult as well, and definitely increases the epoxy cure times. So anyway, last time we left off, we had the deck and the hull tack welded. They were tack welded. We were going to move into filleting them and joining the deck and the hull together. And I last left off talking about the hatch assembly. So I'd cut out the hatch assembly, and we were going to move on to trying to work on my hidden hatch assembly. So let's just get straight to it and see where we're at.
Last night I came back and I glued the hatch on. Somehow I've managed to fail to record that as well. In fact, this time I set up the camera and I didn't press record, and by the time I'd realized I kind of had a bunch of epoxy on my hands. But essentially the hatch spacer in here and then the hatch sill, both sides of the hatch spacer need epoxy put on them, thickened epoxy, and you stick the hatch spacer to the hatch sill and then put the whole thing underneath, making sure to get a really good seal around here and not sort of overlap with the spacer. I didn't have enough clamps, so I thought this was quite a good idea. I've placed 2 pieces of timber through here and used some of these actually I don't know what these are called, to be honest. Not spring clamps, these other type of clamps is the only ones that I had, and they weren't long enough to reach past the hatch sill and onto the spacer. So let's take this off and have a look. Alright, that's looking good. I'll just grab my little hatch cover, which I managed to get a tiny bit of resin on, unfortunately. Okay, that is fitting in there really nice. Okay, it's actually sitting low because it's sitting on the sill, and usually at this point, I'm gonna have trouble getting that out of there now, aren't I?
I might have to gently pop a screwdriver on the end there. Oh, okay. That's not a problem. Just wait a sec.
Alright, that was a bad idea because because it's sitting down on the sill, and it kind of got stuck in there. Trying to get my my scraping tool in there. It's nice and soft, so it shouldn't damage the timber. There we go, popped out. Okay, so usually the sill would go here, but I actually broke that piece. It's in my kit, at least, it was totally unlabeled, and in my kit, it was unlabeled, and it was also a very fragile piece. I'm not even sure if I broke it or if it was just broken. Now, I'd intended, up until about 5 seconds ago, I'd intended to cut some small pieces of wood and just put them around. But this actually seems to be a much better sill, to be honest. This is actually a piece of scrap just from the kit. And if this all works, I don't see why I wouldn't just glue this in. Get this around the right way. Yeah, look at that. That's nice. So I'll thicken up some epoxy. I'll glue that in.
So somehow I have yet again failed to record the epoxying. But as you can see, all of the hatch assembly is completed now. I used the scrap oval piece here to instead of the rim seal, and it's worked absolutely perfectly. Before I put this rim seal in, just around the edges here, you can see there's a bit of a resin overspray or overbrush, I'm not sure what you call that, but a bit where I've got it on the actual deck, because I sealed the inside of this rim, because you're not going to be able to get in there anymore. So it's a big day today. The next stage is going to be to firstly remove all the wires holding the deck and hull together, and then all of the wires holding absolutely everything together. So we'll start with the deck first. So we'll snip all the wires holding the deck together. The deck itself should be held together now by the tack welds. We're going to flip the deck over, and the plan is then to put a nice big thick fillet of epoxy upon all of the joins for the deck. And then once that's done, lay fiberglass tape along all those joins, and then paint the fiberglass tape down with unthickened epoxy, and finally continue that layer and paint the entire underside of the deck with unthickened epoxy. Interestingly enough, the entire deck assembly on the inside doesn't actually have any fiberglass reinforcement. In fact, the only place inside is the cockpit area. Of course, it's going to have it over the outside eventually, but yeah, on the inside, the deck itself just has the tape up the seams. If we get all that completed, we'll move on to the hull. So at the aft here and at the bow, there's just so many wires in the transom and the bow area, and they're already covered in that really thick layer of epoxy that we put down before. So those wires won't be able to come out. They're going to be snipped as close to the wood as possible. And then we're just going to sand those back and maybe put a little bit of putty in there before we resin over it. There is a suggestion that if you heat the wire up with a lighter, it will temporarily loosen the epoxy around the stitch and you can pull it out. Hopefully we can do that, because I don't really want to leave those in there. And yeah, it's going to be a big day, but I've brought out other cameras today. I've got a GoPro here and another action camera. I'm going to set those up before I start, so there's no chance in missing the this section. So nothing for it, let's get to it. All right, so just about ready to start working on the deck. We've taken it off and put it up on blocks of wood just while I got the rest of the wires out. Also, where there's any gaps at all, anywhere where I think the epoxy might leak through onto the deck, I've just taped up with double-sided painter's tape. Sorry, not double-sided, just painter's tape. And I'll be doing the same thing along all the seams, just so we get a really clean fill. I'll be putting painter tape on either side, and once we do the fillet, I'll be tearing that off. I also took this opportunity to stick the points from the shears. I kept them when they snapped off. My dog snapped one of them off, so I just glued them back on with PVC glue and let that cure for a couple of hours. When I put the fillet in there, it should hold in nice and tightly. In this case as well, where I do think there might be some leakage, or there are some holes between the deck and the boat, I'm going to try to colour the wood glue, the thickened epoxy with wood flour just back to as close as I can get it to the wood colour. Some of these parts aren't going to be painted, and I want it to look as good as possible. So I've got a couple of cameras going. I'll set one up as a time lapse, and I'll set one up some close-ups, and we'll see how we go.
All right, so I've got everything taped off, all those little holes, anywhere where I thought epoxy might leak through. Like here, I've taped off just to minimize that as much as possible. Some's obviously going to come through onto the deck, but the less sanding I have to do after, the better. So I'm going to flip this back over. Like I said, the first step is going to be doing the fielding, and then we're going to roll out fiberglass tape over this whole thing, and then finally paint the entire underside, including the fiberglass tape, with unthickened epoxy. So I'm going to put the camera down. Let's get to it.
I think I'm just cursed when it comes to recording the epoxying sections. I did actually get some of it in frame there, epoxying the deck. I didn't get close-ups of the epoxying the deck because my phone filled up and the GoPro ran out of battery soon after these shots. So I didn't get any shots of doing the hull. However, it's just more of the same, right? Tape up the hull, do the thick fillets, and then paint the entire thing with epoxy. The only difference in the hull was that across the cockpit area, there was a sheet of fiberglass laid to really reinforce that area where you're going to sit and a lot of pressure is going to be. So I think we'll leave it there for that one. There was a lot of talking in that one and not much action, but we'll get on to the, we'll sort of move on in the next episode to a couple of more interesting things, affixing the foot braces, and talking about my design for a hidden hatch mechanism, before we then go ahead and start joining the hull and the deck together in the episode probably after that. So I hope you enjoyed and look forward to seeing you in the next one.